The controversial infectious diseases bill was back for discussion today on the floor of the House of Representatives, perhaps ready for a third hearing or further hearing. But the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, bowed to pressure and resolved to subject the Infectious Diseases Bill 2020 to public hearing following the public outcry over the document being debated by the House of Representatives. The bill had passed the first and second reading last Tuesday and was scheduled for the next stage today. Part of the concerns raised by some members of the society include the speed, the wordings, the intent of the drafters, and the timing of the bill. However, the Speaker disagrees with those who question the timing to enact such law. He also denies that the leadership had received $10 million to pass the bill. The Speaker says the allegations are weighty and the House will be taking legal action against those peddling such. Well, something similar to that bill might also be coming up on the upper chamber when today at the Senate they introduced a national health emergency bill for first reading. The bill is sponsored by Senator Chukwuma Utazi from Enugu State. He's just in the first hearing and first appearance in the Senate today. So, but tonight, our conversation is about the controversial infectious diseases bill. Why is it controversial? We take a further look into the bill and how it can benefit Nigerians. Tonight, I have joining me professionals to talk about this. A member of the civil society community, a political scientist, and the lead of the Transparency International in Nigeria, Mr. Awal Ramsajani. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we have a medical expert to help take a professional look at the issue because it's all about health, isn't it? So, a pathologist, Dr. Henry Ewunonu. Thank you so much, Dr. Ewunonu, for your time tonight on the program. Before we get started, there are two things I want us to clarify, and those are some of the issues that were raised also with a nod, either in affirmative or in the negative, if you can confirm to me, Dr. Ewunonu and Mr. Ramsajani. Do we agree that we are in a health emergency in Nigeria? True or false? We do agree, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So on the floor today, there was also a debate whether or not there is a need of this kind of law or for a law on infectious disease. And we understand also that what we had on the ground was perhaps stale and old school, old fashioned. Do we agree that there's a need for a law, isn't it? My guest in Abuja.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yes. So let's get started.
We do agree, yes.
Okay, absolutely. So we're on the same page. And perhaps a lot of Nigerians also agree. But let's look at what people have disagreed on in this bill. And let me get your reaction, Mr. Ramsajani, on the decision of the House to subject the bill now to public hearing in the light of the public outcry that the process is being rushed. What's your take on that?
Well, first, we commend the National Assembly for coming up with this bill because the crisis that we face, we really need a legal framework that will direct the management of, infectious diseases. The law we have, which is dated back 1929, is really outdated, and there's need to really have an updated law that could actually, respond to the current reality. So in that respect, we actually salute the National Assembly for coming up with this bill. However, in an attempt to really help to come up with this bill, some of the content, some of the provisions in the bill, they run contrary to even constitutional provision. They also run contrary to the freedom, of Nigerians, and also it gives, room for abuses, and as well as also it is going to create conflict, interagency robbery. So that's why we thought it is important that the National Assembly should, give opportunity for, health experts, Nigerian, who have capacity or knowledge to be able to provide some quality suggestion or recommendation in order to strengthen this bill, because we believe that if Nigerians are given opportunity to, make input, the National Assembly will have come with a legislation that is well received, and it will have the legitimacy and the necessary, input that can make a law not only for today but also for future, and it will really have more legitimacy and acceptability from the Nigerian people, because experts, Nigerian people are being given room to contribute, towards addressing these pandemic problems. Because right now, the current, legal or policy framework that is being used to respond to the COVID-19 in Nigeria, it has a lot of gaps, and therefore there's need for the National Assembly to come and use their legislative powers to ensure effective even utilization of the palliative and even the management of the COVID-19, which is lacking legal framework as it is now. So I think National Assembly has done very well by coming up with this bill, only that they need to allow Nigerians, experts, to also be able to make contribution so that they can have a good legislation that will really be proud of and that will respond to our situation.
There was a debate. Let me come to Dr. Ewunonu. There was a debate on what the DG of NCDC said, whether or not there is a need for a bill or a law in this time of crisis. That, I guess, they were able to trash out that there is indeed for us to have a focus, a law that can guide. But take a look at part of what a lot of people said they were concerned about. For example, Dr. Ewunonu, let me show you section 47 of the draft of this Control of Infectious Disease Bill, which, let me quickly read it. It's about power to order certain persons to undergo vaccination or other prophylaxis. In an outbreak or a suspected outbreak of any infectious disease in any area in Nigeria, the Director General may by order direct any person or class of person not protected or vaccinated against the disease to undergo vaccination or other prophylaxis within such period as may be specified in the order. Does this look for you like a draconian coinage in the wordings? Dr. Ewunonu.
Thank you, Sean. I will join my colleague, Rafsanjani. First of all, to appreciate the House of Representatives and the entire National Assembly for coming to the rescue. There was a fundamental problem. At the beginning of this crisis, Nigerian Medical Association issued a release because we identified that there were gaps in the laws establishing, either in the Quarantine Act of 1926 or the law establishing NCDC, the NCDC Establishment Act 2018. They were not strong enough. The provisions were not so straightforward and clear-cut so that each agency will know exactly what to do. And Nigerian Medical Association appealed to the president, in view of these deficiencies, please issue an executive order so that we will have something like a law, a statute that will guide us through this battle. So I thank the Speaker, who is the sponsor of the bill, and the co-sponsors, Dr. Sununu and Dr. B. The Speaker perhaps is so much in love with the health sector. Part of his first interventions when he assumed office was in health. Maybe this love has become infatuation. To your question, in medicine, there is a word called consent. We always obtain an informed consent. What an informed consent means is that you educate the client or the patient on the benefits, on the side effects, adverse effects of this type of treatment or preventive measure. And you guide the patient through proper education to take an informed decision. I don't think any law will ever prescribe that you bundle people from the streets or you come to a school and order mass vaccination for the pupils or the students. No, that will not happen. That one, however, we are doctors, we are not lawyers. The legal people have reminded us there is a part of the Constitution that says the president should take steps. The things we call fundamental rights. Somehow this law can be bent, not broken, in terms of public health emergency, so that many or majority of the populace will be saved. Fundamentally, that provision is obnoxious, as it is draconian, And since provision has been made for public hearing, I'm sure it will be tempered a little.
All right. So,
So that
on that
it
on that
will
point,
become
Dr. Ewunonu, let's take a break. When we come back, there are a few other portions that people have picked out, which of course, in my own reading and personal study of the 55-page draft, we'll look at them and talk more on how we can make it better, and of course, make Nigerians feel okay with the legislation. That's after the break, everyone. Join us again.
Well, you see, what I have is the law I have here. I haven't read what's in the House of Reps, but what I've just known is that we have a bill that is going to address the health issues connected with COVID and beyond, so that such issue, whenever it comes in the future, you have a law.
Does the bill make vaccination compulsory?
No, it doesn't make vaccination compulsory. There's nothing. Because we have yellow fever in this country here. It's not compulsory. If you want to travel any part of the country outside the world, if you are coming from an area that have such issue, all the airports in anywhere you are going, the port of destination will demand to know whether you are vaccinated for yellow fever. You know, if you are in any part of the world. So we have always had yellow fever vaccination here. If you want to travel, they demand for it. At the airport, you go with it. If you don't have it and you get to the airport, they will ask you to do it there, you know, before you go, so that you don't bring it. If they're having fear that where you are going, we will reject it. They will enforce it here. So this is the issue we are having here. There's nothing new we are trying to bring up that doesn't exist.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Awa Ramsajani, the country lead of Transparency International, political scientist, and also the director of CISLAC. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dr. Henry Ewunonu is a pathologist, a medical practitioner here in Nigeria, and a member of the Nigerian Medical Association. Thank you so much for your thoughts tonight. Let me quickly come back to you, Mr. Ramsajani. Quickly, if you may put your thought, because a lot of people are clamoring that no Nigerian should be criminalized for refusal to vaccinate, as we were stated in the section 51 of that proposed legislation. But another area which I will rightly put on the screen for you to see is also where a lot of people also have issues and picked holes, is the power as put in the Director General, for example, section 10 of that draft bill, treatment of premises of vessel, which I read, it says, without prejudice to any proceedings under subsection 2, where a notice issued by the Director General under subsection 1 has not been complied with, a person authorized in that behalf by the Director General may, without warrant and with such force as may be necessary, enter the premises or vessel to which a notice relates and take or cause to be taken such measures as have been specified in the notice. What are your thoughts, Mr. Ramsajani, on the wordings of this section, which some people think perhaps it gives too much power to an unelected DG of NCDC?
Thank you very much. I think this provision, is why, is giving us worried and concerned, because this is a clear conflict that will, emerge between even the Director General and the security agencies. So far, our Constitution is very clear who has the power to make arrests, but this provision is giving this enormous power to the Director General to, go and enter by force, use even force to go into any premises, arrest people, disrupt gathering, disrupt entertainment, disrupt anything, that's, he feel like doing. I think this is not a good provision, because apart from conflicts between the security agencies and the Director General, that the bill, is bringing, there's also abuse of human rights. You see, when you allow people to have excessive power, no check, no control, no accountability, you will end up having chaos. So in an attempt to solve one problem, you are going to create multiple problems. So that is why we think there's need for the National Assembly to allow public hearing so that they can benefit from the experts, medical experts, even the Director General himself, the security, human rights organizations. They will come and give you some suggestion that will be useful to strengthen this bill that we have. But if you go the way it is and the speed at which they were going, it might end up, really not solving the problem that was intended. But I'm happy that the Speaker has listened to Nigerian people. We've issued a statement yesterday urging the National Assembly to restrain this speedy, effort to pass this bill without public input and public scrutiny, and also to ensure that all those areas that has direct conflict with the Constitution, with the freedom of expression, are also eliminated from the bill, because the idea of this bill is to help Nigeria and Nigerians, and it should not, be the other way around to cause problem. So that is why we appreciate the Honorable Speaker for agreeing with the civil society groups in Nigeria and many, health experts who have actually raised concern, with the way and manner in which this bill is currently being presented, so that more opportunity for public, input is given, so that the bill can be strengthened and there will be more stronger, legislation that will come at the end of the day. Otherwise, invariably, even if the National Assembly goes to pass this thing with the speed they are going to pass, the executive will not necessarily pass it just like that. They must also subject it to the scrutiny, and anything that contradicts our Constitution, I then see the president or the presidency going ahead to enact,
Dr. Ewunonu,
so I
let
think
me,
it is
Mr.
better for the National
Ramsejani.
Assembly.
Yeah. Let me quickly get Dr. Ewunonu to coming. Let's look at public interest and the poor, the vulnerable in our society. Let me allow you to look at this with the mind of the knowledge of some of the other sections that I quoted earlier. This one is section 17, and the closure of and disinfection of premises. Any person who is aggrieved by any order or requirement of the Director General as contained in a notice given to him under subsection 1 may within 7 days from the date of the notice appeal to the minister whose decision shall be final. Can the minister have that kind of power? Does this protect the poor and the vulnerable? Perhaps it may also, because when we spoke of the camera earlier, with the knowledge, because what I noticed is that this looks like a combination of the UK, Singapore, some other experiences that are put together for the Nigerian experience. Yes. What are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of people have made some statements, some very cynical. Some say it's out of the 90% plagiarized from a 1977 Quarantine Act of Singapore, when Singapore was running a one-party state, showing there are certain truths. And let us examine them. I will answer that question directly. But before I do, let me reason with Nigerians tonight. Do we need a strong law to enforce public health activities, especially infectious disease epidemic in this country? I will answer it, I say yes. Do we need some laws that will appear stronger? The provisions may appear stronger than what we have. I will answer yes. I'm sure the intendment, people are talking of intendment of the sponsors of this bill and the drafters. Their intendment will be, let us have something strong. Somebody saw from a different country how corpses will be lying on the streets of Africa. And 1 to 2 out of every African is a Nigerian. Meaning that if we come to the whole of, we will be seeing streets. Corpses on lying in Area 1 and Lagos and Oshodi and everywhere. God forbid. So, coming to answer this question, I think the House will approach professional legal drafters again. I'm not saying the professionals were not approached again, because language is important. Languages or certain phrases as he may deem fit, when he is satisfied, I don't think they have a place in modern legislation and democracy. Again, we have a court. We have courts of law. I think what may also be important here is to create special courts that will be functional during epidemic disasters as we are facing right now, to make sure that cases are treated with dispatch to protect the law and even the big ones, because this law may be misused by politicians.
All right.
We
So,
have seen it
Dr.
in this
Wunonu,
country.
we have approached the home stretch. Just a moment. I'll give both of you about 30 seconds each to round up your thoughts quickly. Where do we go from here, Mr. Ramsajani and Mr. Wunonu? 30 seconds so that we can round up each. 30 seconds each, please.
So quickly, where we need to go now is for exactly what the speaker had announced, that he's going to welcome public hearing. I think we need to do this public hearing, allow professional, expert, experienced people that can add value to this legislation. I think if we do that, Nigerians will actually appreciate more the effort of the intervention of the National Assembly. And lastly, is to say that the National Assembly must put their oversight mechanism to ensure that there is a check and balances even on the ongoing COVID implementation in Nigeria now.
All right. So, Dr. Wunonu, from a medical point of view, 30 seconds, where do we go from here? Is there an urgency?
Soft landing for the House of Reps is what they have done, that the bill will be subjected to public hearing. A softer landing, something Nigerians that will appease Nigerians, will be complete withdrawal of this bill. We will need to look at the NCDC Bill 2018 and look at ways of strengthening it. Does it have deficiencies? We can. We can amend the National Health Act, put some of the provisions, instead of creating an entirely new bill, afresh.
All right.
This will appease Nigerians and remove those offensive, phrases and terms.
Thank you so much. Dr. Henry Owunonu, a pathologist and member of the NMA, thank you so much for coming. And Mr. Awa Ramsajani, thank you indeed, gentlemen, for giving those thoughts on the show tonight. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.